Hello, people. Hello, people. How is everyone? How is everyone? Yeah. So, Sam Smith press conference. We've got Newcastle coming up at the weekend. Woo, tough one. Tough one. Very tough one. Um, just on the last video, the comments, as usual, like I asked for comments. The reason I didn't reply to them all is simply because, well, I just want to see it as a discussion point. I wanted to get my brain ticking and get my brain thinking about perspectives of people, what people think, more for personal, to be honest, to try and grow, I guess. I don't know. I understand perspectives, because perspective for me in football is huge. So there were some really good points I liked in there from a few of you guys, some usuals as well. Some really good points, like long points that I sat there and went, wow, that's really good. Like I was mind blown by some of them genuinely. So the comments were really good. They were all respectful. People had their strong opinions, but that's good. I replied to one or two just to clear things up, maybe what I didn't specify in the video. But yeah, appreciate that. Brilliant. And I've seen a few things. I've learned a few things from that. I'm going into the press conference. Sam was unusual form, wasn't he? Do you know what I mean? Saying that. You know what I mean? You know what I mean? You know what I mean? Big Sam says he loves it. Being honest, being brutal, saying what he thinks, not shying away, standing out as a character with presence, which is what we need in this particular moment. Yeah, Sam's always impressive in press conferences, though, isn't he? He's a good speaker. He's very honest with it. He's Northern, so part Northern. So yeah, it's good to see, and it was interesting the whole talk about the whole talk about what we need to get back out of the season to stay up, and he was very honest with it, and he said, we might need 4, we might need 6, we might need 5, but he said the biggest thing he's going to take from this game is to use fear. Fear's the thing that holds everyone back. If there was no fear, everyone would do anything, right? But it's to use that fear as positive energy to improve a performance or perform. If you can do that, if you can switch the mentality of a player to be scared, to be excited with the fear, to be excited of what can come from the game, you can really change a team's mentality around. It's difficult, and often, what does that mean? You said to yourself, what does fear mean? No one really knows. You have different definitions for fear, but how do you use fear? And it's difficult. You can't just use it. You've got to understand. You've got to, develop yourself to understand how to use fear to your advantage. And Sam was basically saying, these players have to use that. The mentality is everything in football. We know that. Sam said that. He's rectified that many times. You can have the best players in the world, but if they've not got the fight in them or the desire or they're overcome with fear, they're just not going to perform. It's as simple as that. And that's true with these players. It's fear, isn't it? It is fear. That's the mentality. It's fear. And he said it. And he spoke about other coaches, in the past who have spoken about things like that, that know their stuff to do with mentality and, stuff like that. And it makes you think, yeah, actually, so much of football is about mentality. And that took us back to the whole situation of the video that we spoke about, how to get a result, moments in games, the mentality of the moments. But that made me think about the video I put out after Leicester. And you might not know, but I privated it. Because what happened in the Patrick Bamford situation is I felt that video, even though he's definitely not seen it, but to me, as a person, to simply define an entire 90 minutes of football on one moment is not what I do. Whether that's truth or not, as an analyst, I said, you can analyse it if it comes down to moments. At the end of the day, it doesn't. Because the game shouldn't rely on one moment, right? It should be a sequence of moments. It should be a sequence of play. It should be a big group of play that helps the team win. There shouldn't be one moment. And the way in which I came out, and I didn't want to attack the player individually. I didn't say it's anything on the player. It's just that moment with that player has to go in, right? That's what I said. I've come out and defended Bamford many, many times because I genuinely think he's got real good attributes to his striking performance. He's not clinical, but, to me anyway, he does a lot of things. Not in the Man City game, but Sam even said in his system, he said that's to do with the players, so he put it back on the players. He said, you guys have to perform in this system. So it was interesting that might be potential changes as well based on that. But yeah, that's the reason I privated that video. I don't know if you realise, just because from a personal point of view, I feel I act on emotions, which is why in the future I'm not going to rely on emotions. So if there's a night game or an evening game, I'm going to do a video the day after. You know, if there's a 3 o'clock kickoff, I'll do a video at 8. You know, after I've progressed, because it's not my true thought. And I sat back and thought, actually, yeah, why did I say it like that? Because that's wrong. You know, that's my opinion. But yeah, back onto the game. He spoke about how we beat Newcastle, and of course, Sam's structure, so Sam's basic ideology, I guess, comes from finding a way to defend against their strengths and then exploiting their weaknesses. So this whole let's defend, it's not true. But the first progress is clean sheets, and again, he spoke about how previous coaches, and he spoke to Eddie Gray, which I love that. He talked about Sir Alex Ferguson, Pep Guardiola. They all had the best clean sheet record. And that's why he said the use of defensive work is vital. And people misconstrue that to think he just plays defensive football. That's not the case. It's been able to develop a defensive structure which can then guard you from conceding goals, which then allows you to win a game by 1 goal or 2. You know, if you're going all out attack, it could be a game where it's 4-3, 6-5. You know, you can score so many goals, but you can also concede them. So it's nullifying that, exploiting their weaknesses in attack, but foremost, really nullifying their strengths in attack. So, for example, with Man City, it seemed, although it didn't work on the odd occasion, it seemed like we were trying to deviate from Gundogan and actually secure the players like De Bruyne and Haaland. Now, Gundogan and Mahrez are 2 extremely talented players. They got the ball into the box, and the second chance, the one that he's ripped around, it's a really good goal. It's a really good goal. But against a team like that, like Sam said, to come away with a 2-1 win despite their chances, you'll take that. But now it's all about this game, and he really rectified how important it is to get something. He said, if we get something from this game, he's 60% sure we'll stay up. Because that win, especially in the situation against Newcastle, a really good side, at home, Ellen Road, with the pressure on, getting a win there would really boost your confidence going into the last 2 games. And he said, and I loved it, what I talked about in my last video, which I spoke about Sam, he wants to go into that Tottenham game with something to play for. And I sat there and went, yeah, he knows. Because he knows if we go in that Tottenham game with something to play for me, this could totally backfire on me and Sam and everyone else saying it. For me, that is the game that we win. I'm most certain. If we can get a few results before that, the confidence will be up in this team and they'll have real belief, and they will not play with fear. They will play with passion. They will use that fear to play with passion, play with desire. So that is the goal. And he said, we must do everything to not lose. So, for example, if you do get a point, it makes everything more difficult, but then it puts more pressure on the last 2 games, right? Whereas if you can get a win, there's still pressure on the other games, but you've got that confidence knowing that you can beat a good side. So again, I like what Sam said. I really did like what Sam said. And that's the thing about Sam. You know, you talk about a man's career and all the things the negative things that have come out of the press. You know, stuff with the England job and around that time. But as a coach in the Premier League, which he's done for 20 odd years, you know, he's a real experienced head and he knows a lot of stuff. And he even spoke about how he'd given the headlines and said he was obviously saying it to take the pressure off the players, which we knew, didn't we? A lot of you guys, you know. I knew that. Come on. But there's still truth to that. He's very experienced. He knows a lot of stuff. He's very smart. And he's actually a pioneer in a lot of ways for many things in the Premier League. So he's a good guy to have right now. And he's saying the right things in terms of he's not taking the pressure off the players. In fact, he's putting more pressure on them. But he's at the training ground and in the press conferences using it as a way to fuel them, not as a way to scare them, you know? That's his experience. And there's a thin line between scare and confidence. There is. If you say to a player, you have to win today, they'll be like, oh. But then it's more of him saying it. He'll say it in a way which is like, you will win today because we know you are good enough. And that's not fear. That's not. It's not that we think you're good enough. It's we know you are. So that's not necessarily something to get nervous about. That's something to fuel you. We know you are. You don't have to prove it. We know you. We know you're good enough. It's that type of thing. You have to prove it to the fans, but we know you're good enough. Not we think you're good enough. We know it. It's a real confidence. You have to find that confidence. You've got to find what, as a professional footballer, what took them to that point of being a professional footballer. The chances of that. And you've got to take that into the game. And listen, yeah, we are good. We are really good at this. Let's prove to everyone that we're good at this. I'm sure the fans are going to turn up. Best believe we turn up. So I will be there. I wish. But yeah, good press conference going into the Newcastle game, and it's a real big game, man. Every game is big. It's huge, isn't it? Let's be real. But do you know what? This sounds really bad. And if we did go down, and I'm enjoying all the BL stuff going around. It's fun. I watch Joe's show. It's fun. I love it. When there's news about your club and it's mysterious, it at least gives you a bit of excitement. Whether it's completely not true or whatever, I don't care. I'm enjoying it. But that's that. I'll leave the better people who know more about that to talk about that stuff. But yeah, I'm enjoying it. It's fun. It's really fun. But back onto the game. Like, yeah, this is it now, isn't it? At the end of the day, and I was thinking about the whole if we go down, and I hate thinking about it. But it's a strong possibility. I'm not deluded. It's extremely strong possibility that could happen. Right? It could. And I know in one way, in terms of, and I'll do a full video on this. I want to talk on it a little bit. In terms of financials, we'll be in a great position. From what I've been told from the Phil Hay show and the guys at Square Ball, we'll be in a really good position. Right? Then it's about decision making. And Fabrizio actually said on his podcast, which I watched, good podcast, some good chat on there. And, they occasionally talk about Leeds. Leeds are he thinks Leeds want a younger manager, a development project. We love the word project at this club, but a younger manager with real pedigree. So you're looking at some of the Championship managers who are doing quite well, maybe some foreign managers that are doing quite well. Maybe not the higher profile like an Arne Slot, especially in the Championship. You're not going to get him. But even look at people like Carrick, just people like that kind of thing. Guy at Swansea is Russell Martin. Yeah, people like that. But then that comes after the season, but that's about decision making, and we need the right people in place to make those decisions. Okay, that's all. That's all that is. In terms of recruitment, in terms of player recruitment, excuse me, my hair's still wet. In terms of player recruitment and managerial recruitment, that's vital next year. No matter what happens pre-season, before you play football, before you kick a ball, everything relies on getting the right direction of football and then getting the right manager. Because you can't even think about players until you've done that, right? You can't even buy players. You can't even think about it until you have director of football and the manager in. They have to be right first before we even think about players. But let's go into Newcastle, right? I'm looking forward to it just because I'm just interested to see what we can do. I always am now. I think the way Sam plays, look, whether it's beautiful or not, I don't think we need that. I don't think that's relevant. I think there's areas of it where we can be expressive, we can fight, we can really go at them. They're a good side, they're a very good side, but I think if we really find a way to fuel that fear in a positive manner, we can be a good side as well. We've just not done that this year. And Jesse Marsh actually spoke about it a lot, about fear and this playing scared, which is true. It was true. The problem with this team is finding a way to overturn that. Sam spoke about how important the get first goal is because he's worried if we don't get it, the fear will creep in. That's where we are. I think he's accepted it's going to be really difficult to change the entire fear around. But if we can get that first goal, it can really establish dominance and confidence in the mind. In the mind. God, that was very in the mind. Do you know what I mean? But, yeah. They're a tough side, guys. Again, it's going to depend on other results, but a draw, it's not great, but you've still got 2 points. You've still got 2 more games to get 6 points after that. So you could still get 7, theoretically, right? That's the idea. But a win is huge, innit? A win is huge, massively huge. That would A win would really set you up really well going into the next 2 games. A win would be brilliant. If we go in there and there's nothing and we get battered, that's going to be that's. I know I keep saying it's probably it. That could be. You know, we need something in that Tottenham game. We need to go into that Tottenham game with something to play for, as Sam said. That is vital. We have to have something to play for on that last game of the season at Ellen Road. That is pivotal. We need that belief on the last day. We do. And it starts tomorrow, I think, for me. You know, in terms of certain aspects of the Man City game, there was a real belief. In terms of the result, obviously not. In terms of the way they had chances, but certain aspects of that game will give you real confidence. They will. Now we have to develop that with the week Sam's had, and he said it as well. He's had a week. Each week he's going to have a week, which is big for him. And I imagine that what they did in 2 days, 2 training sessions, an entire week, we're going to see a better structure for me, I think. How we're going to play it, I don't know. I don't know who's going to start. He's going to make changes. He said that. I think Rodrigo might start, given what he said. Potentially. Be changing on the wing. I think Nonto struggled. I really do. And everyone's talking about other players, but for me, just based on the City performance, for me, Nonto had the worst performance. Just based on how effective he was, what he did when he did get the ball. For me. And everyone's talking about Patrick Bamford, but let's be real here. And you know, everyone has their favourites. But I like to try and be fair, and I think Nonto was worse than Bamford. I think there's an argument that both wingers were worse than Bamford. And 1 or 2 potentially midfielders. If not, Bamford weren't worse than them. They were just as bad. In terms of going forward, I mean. In terms of the wingers going forward, and when we broke in the 4-3-3, there was nothing there from either of them. So to criticise just Bamford is very wrong, because Nonto wasn't great. I know we all love him. He wasn't. So will we see him play? Maybe. Sam spoke before about why Nonto's not playing. He didn't understand it. Maybe now he does. Maybe he will play. Maybe he's developed him more. Maybe he understands the system now. Let's see anyway. But I'm looking forward to it. Let's just see what happens, guys. That's all we can do now. It's not in our hands, is it? We've just got to win football games and hope other results go our way. We lost that. We lost it from our grasp. Is what it is. Let me know what you guys think. Appreciate support as usual. Yeah. Peace.